Taking the High Road podcast, presented to you by Divorce Buddy and Certified Divorce Coach. Welcome to the show. In the Taking the High Road podcast, you'll learn simple strategies for creating a healthy divorce no matter what stage you are at. This podcast also has a companion book available from Amazon.com that includes valuable insights from 11 certified divorce coaches. To learn more, be sure to visit highroadanddivorce.com. Again, that's highroadanddivorce.com. So on today's show, we have Marhan Dropkin. Marhan is a CDC certified divorce coach. After a decades-long marriage and raising 4 great kids, Marhan faced a complicated divorce. Watching other women make mistakes they regretted for the rest of their lives inspired her to become one of her own best advocates. Marhan read everything she could get her hands on regarding divorce and told friends she was getting a master's degree in divorce. Today, we have some great insights that she shared. I'd like to welcome Marhan to the show. Hello, Marhan. Welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thank you very much.
So can you share with us a little bit about your divorce coaching practice, Support in a Storm, and the types of people that you help?
I named the business Support in a Storm because I wanted a name that would convey a safe place during a difficult time. And the logo for my business shows 2 people walking together underneath an umbrella through a rainstorm. And this image appealed to me because one person's holding the umbrella in that situation and protecting the other person from the storm, from the rain. And I really like that feeling of I will walk through this difficult time with you and help you get through it unscathed. So that's the history of the naming of my business. And that's what I try to do with my divorce coaching practice. I try to companion people through difficult times and help them get through it as best as possible.
I like that. Maybe a tropical storm instead of an ominous, harsh winter storm. Now, can you share with us what first inspired you to enter this field and become a divorce coach?
Well, I went through my own very difficult divorce a few years back, and I watched several friends and acquaintances make really bad mistakes when they went through their divorces, choices they made that affected them for the rest of their lives because they couldn't undo them. And some just got worn down by the pressure and they gave in to less than they deserved just to have it be over. Also, just the decisions that I watched them make weren't what they really wanted. So when I knew it was time for me to get divorced, I said, that's not going to be me. I started reading everything I could get my hands on, studying everything, internet, books at the library. That's a great place because you don't want to be spending so much money, but downloading ebooks and things just so I could learn everything I needed to know and be able to judge whether I was making good decisions or not. So I even told my friends that I was getting a master's degree in divorce because I was spending so much time educating myself. And it's kind of hard to focus when you're under stress to this degree. But I knew that this was my one opportunity to get it right. And I wanted to do the very best job I could. So when I got through with all this and got through my divorce and knowing what I knew and learning what I had learned during the divorce, I felt that I wanted to help other people get through this when it's such a vulnerable state, and to help them know that they don't have to go through it alone like I did. That's why I got started in this field.
So you say one of your primary goals is to help your clients maintain dignity when going through the divorce process. So what are the common challenges and misconceptions they have when going through divorce? And specifically, what inhibits people from being able to emerge from the divorce process with their dignity intact?
I think that people are so emotional when they're going through their divorce. They're not thinking straight, and their emotions can run away with them. And it's very difficult to make good, logical decisions when you're in such an altered state. For somebody to come out of their divorce with their dignity intact, I think means to feel that you did the very best you could for yourself and you behaved the very best you could during that emotional time. And so in order to avoid making the mistakes, people need to really focus on how am I going to do the best I can, be my own best advocate. Now, To be your own best advocate is a concept that is maybe a surprise, because people think that when they go to an attorney and they give an attorney a lot of money, that the lawyer's going to take over and run the whole divorce and take care of everything. And, sometimes an attorney wants you to think that. I had one lawyer I interviewed tell me he was going to take care of me and I shouldn't worry. I didn't have to worry. He wanted to make me feel safe, and, it was very believable. But the truth of the matter is that all the attorneys that you interview want your business. And anybody who wants your business is going to be putting their best face forward, their best, telling you what they think, maybe what they think you want to hear, just so that you will sign on with them. And the truth is that most lawyers didn't go into law just so they could listen to your heartbreaking story or give you financial advice or refer you to another divorce professional. Your attorney is a specialist who deals with the business of you getting divorced. So they're very good at that. But for the other pieces of the divorce that are going to come your way, you really need other players of your team. So to be your own best advocate, you need to construct your team of divorce professionals so that you can get the help you need from all different areas.
You make some great points, Marie. Clearly, attorneys, they're in the business of divorce. They may say what you think you want to hear. You're in a vulnerable state. And of course, not all who go into the law field have the highest degree of empathy, nor does law school teach empathy. Family courts and attorneys often forget they're humans with real feelings, real emotions. It's not just another case or another transaction.
And nobody's going to care as much as you do about the outcome of your divorce. You really have to be the captain of your team.
You make some great points, Marie. I just ask, how would you advise someone who's listening to this podcast on how to best take back the reins and be captain of their own team and really be their own best advocate?
Well, Jeremy, to be your own best advocate, you need to be able to speak for yourself. And to do that, you need to educate yourself so you know what you're talking about. That's the first step, is learning all you can about divorce, whether it's reading, listening to podcasts, just collecting information from professionals so that you know what you're talking about, and nobody's going to bamboozle you or give you wrong information. You'll be able to judge and weigh it yourself. And the second piece of that is just getting expert advice from divorce experts. If you need that, to get that firsthand from whether it's a therapist, an accountant, somebody who's trained in financial advising for divorce specifically, get that expert advice if you don't feel comfortable in that arena. The third thing I'd say is remembering that you're in control. Stay in charge and make the decisions. Don't let people make decisions for you or push you into agreeing to things that aren't what you want. And the last thing I really feel strongly about is keeping the big picture in mind. You want to think about how this is going to be 10 years from now. If things get so nasty and unpleasant, and 10 years from now you're at your child's graduation from high school or wedding, you want to keep relationships with extended relatives the best you possibly can, and with your ex-spouse, do the best you can to be unemotional. It's hard, it's not easy, but just to keep that picture in mind. How is it going to be when we're in a different situation and we have to interact and we've been through this very difficult time? Keep that in the back of your mind so that you can get there and be on the best terms possible.
Interesting. So it's almost like mental role playing, right? Like imagining yourself in that situation and anticipating how you'd react.
Yeah, they say if you imagine or can see a picture of yourself when you're retired, it helps people save for retirement. And in this case, I'm suggesting that if you can see yourself 10 years after the divorce, how you want to be getting along with the ex-spouse. What you do now will set up the groundwork for the relationship you'll have then. And it's not easy, because if both people don't keep that in mind, you won't really be as likely to get there, but it might even to suggest that to your divorcing spouse that, look at, 10 years from now, we want to be able to be sitting at the same table at our child's event. So we want to keep that in our heads while we're going through this. It's not all about the emotions and the strong emotions that we're having right now.
Right. That's a great point. Clearly, it's optimal if both parties are on the same page. Having that same long-term vision. Looking out beyond the next few months and looking down the road 5-10 years from now. Although, of course, that's not always possible. I suppose the person that's least cooperative is going to have the tendency to really sort of bring the ship down. So you're trying to bring the ship back and teach skills so people can truly take the high road and maintain focus on the positive.
Right. And I think that, keeping that in mind will help you maintain your dignity throughout the divorce, because you'll act on what's best for the long haul, not what feels good in the immediate moment.
Every divorce coach is shaped by their own personal experiences and personal biases. Now, do you have any recommendations or suggestions when someone's searching for a divorce coach?
As far as divorce coaches, most divorce coaches have experienced different kinds of clients, but there's a commonality in that people going through divorce are in shock. They are emotional. They are trying to process all kinds of tasks that need to get done, maybe when they're hysterical or grieving their situation and the loss. Even if they chose a divorce, it's not what they wanted and pictured for their lives. So any divorce coach would be able to help any person, I think, going through divorce. But some do specialize in certain areas of types of clients, like clients with young children, young families, and some, like myself, my experience is exiting a long-term marriage. And so that's my own personal experience is stronger in that area. But I would try to help any person that came that wanted my help getting through their divorce and making decisions and processing everything that goes along with it.
Now, can you share with us a story of a client that you've worked with that went through some rough patches, who were maybe facing some significant challenges and feeling hopeless, but by implementing the insights you provided, by working with you, they were able to overcome those challenges and fears and really sort of emerge from the divorce in a place where they were happy and emotionally healthy, and they came out of the divorce really with their dignity intact?
One simple thing that comes to mind, one simple story. It's just amazing how sidetracked people can get when they're in an emotional state. And one detail can seem so blown out of proportion. I had a client who was just beside herself with anxiety. She wanted to leave her husband. She was in a very abusive situation, and she was very fearful of his reaction when she told him that she wanted a divorce. But there were certain situations at play, certain factors that made it in her best interest to delay for a few months asking for a divorce, even though mentally she was ready. So she was so fixated on a particular date because their lease for their home was coming due that they were renting, and she was just had convinced herself that that date was the day she had to tell him that she wanted a divorce, even though it wasn't really a good time in the big picture. And so just by talking to her and listening to her, I realized she was overlooking the fact that she could delay that date just by talking to her landlord and asking for an extension, maybe going month to month for a few months, and thereby buy herself some time to calm down, have a good plan in place, and also to meet a certain deadline that was in her benefit to reach. And so just helping her focus on that. This is the next step. It's not telling your husband you want a divorce. It's getting an extension on this so you don't have that pressure, and then you can have the time that you need to come to the place where you're ready. And so that's just a small piece, but just factors like that people get so sidetracked with hysteria that they can't really move forward. They can't make a good decision about the next step. That's where a divorce coach like me will really benefit them.
Well, thanks, Marie. That's a really interesting story and some great advice. In closing, do you have any final words of advice? What is the most important thing people should consider when they're going through a divorce?
I think they need to know that no matter how terrible they feel right now, they will get through this. It's one of the most stressful things you'll experience in your life to go through a divorce, but you will survive it and you will be happy again. And you might be surprised at how happy you can be, but just getting through this part, it will happen. And sometimes people lose sight of that. They think they're never going to feel any differently than they feel right at that moment. So I just want to reassure everybody listening that you will get through your divorce.
Well, thank you so much, Marie, for your valuable insights. We really appreciated having the time to learn from you. Now, in closing, how can the listener learn more about you and how can they contact you?
The best way to contact me is to look up my website, supportinastorm.com, and there's a link to email me directly. And you can also give me a phone call. I'm available at 518-423-2525. And I always offer a complimentary initial session to help people focus forward and think about what is the next step, especially with somebody who's at the very beginning of a divorce. They may not know what to do first, and they may just have the overwhelm that divorce brings. So there's no obligation for the first session. And you could check on my website for my lists. I have one about choosing an attorney, questions to ask, and things to think about while you're choosing an attorney, and also some other information on my website. You can email me for lists to help with different topics.
Perfect. So that's Marie at supportinastorm.com, and your phone number is 518-423-2525, and you've got some free advice on your website. Again, supportinastorm.com.
Correct. Thank you.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Thank you for joining us today on the Taking the High Road podcast. Be sure to stay tuned for the next episode. And if you're interested in learning more about the companion book available from Amazon, visit highroadindivorce.com. Again, that's highroadindivorce.com. Thanks again.